Your living room is the factory. The product being manufactured is you.
In the money supply creates a curve which I'll darken here. So now we've got an expansionary fiscal policy. That was whatever kicked the demand curve up in the first place. We add to that an expansionary money policy in order to keep the interest rate the same.
For years, people have defined the economic health of a country by its gross national product. The trouble is that every time a forest falls, the GNP goes up. With every oil spill, the GNP goes up. Every time a new cancer patient is diagnosed, the GNP goes up. If we are to save ourselves, economists must learn to subtract.
Hi, with us tonight is Kabin Thomas from the University of Arkansas. How are you, Kabin?
Doing well, thank you.
People watching the news lately and reading newspapers, when they think of the name Kabin Thomas, they may think, oh, just someone swearing like a sailor in his classes and offending young girls and just bringing disrepute to the name of the University of Arkansas.
I guess I don't quite understand that. I mean, all I do is lecture naked. You know, and so one of the things for sure that I try to do is I try to entertain, I try to put my message out there, I try to intellectually stimulate them. And it's not the Chris Rock show, and, you know, it's not the Kabin Thomas salacious, hour of ribald bawdy ballads. I mean, I want people to understand, and you to understand,
right,
that it is, yes, there's some salty language that is used, but it's not a class of just salty language with a little bit of information stuck in there.
Right.
And the more reading that I do about what has happened, the more it seems to devolve into the fact that it was the Kabin Thomas show and the Kabin Thomas cursing hour. And I mean, I know that media is a wonderful thing. It's an incredible thing. But it can sometimes be used, to really emphasize a small portion of what a person is doing, like with my class. I mean, it doesn't talk. None of the articles that talk about the fact I've 8,000 students and I've got hundreds. I mean, most of them have said I've had hundreds of supporters.
Right.
But hundreds of emails from students who said I've changed the direction of their life. Now, Richard, one of the things I think you and I know is I didn't do anything when it came to changing anybody's direction. I mean, it's all about us making that decision.
Right.
But it's still an honor to have students say, you were part of this experience, you were part of helping me change what direction I wanted to go into. And, you can't have that with the Kabin Thomas Bawdy Ballad Hour. So that part is a little saddening for me because it seems as though the more airtime and ink it gets, the more awful it seems I was behaving in class.
It's like it's building on itself.
Yes.
Now,
yes.
What classes were you teaching, though?
Oh, I taught one class. I had music lecture 1003, and it was a music appreciation class. And I had when I got pulled, the 24th of February, I had 908 students at that point in time. And if, on the day that I was pulled from teaching, Donald Bobbin said, you've done a good service to the university over these 10 years. You've been controversial, but you're the only professor who's had a load like this. And I said, I would be happy to take 2 more classes. I mean, I very much enjoy trying to get that message out to the students. Administrators' kids have taken my classes, and they've seemed to like it. I mean, much of the administration seems to have known that I have been doing what I've been doing. And again, it's not grotesque.
Right.
One of the articles said something about my constant use of sexual innuendo. Well, that's not appropriate. That's not right.
Right.
It's not constantly talking about, folks, we're going to talk about music and breasts today. And with us is Dixie, who has her clothes on. It's just not going to happen. I'm not interested. I don't think that's right. It's not what I do. And it feels like it's the Howard Stern show.
Yeah.
And
that's the impression people get from reading the newspapers.
Yeah, so that's not cool.
So what are your classes like then? I mean, at the start of term, I guess, do you discuss your approach with students?
Yes, I do, because I think it's very important. It is a different class. I mean, I do use humor, and I do use an entertaining sort of format, PowerPoints, a lot of visuals. You know, I do try to make it a show.
Yeah.
Because I think, well, we're talking about music, and
Right.
music is a show.
Right.
I mean, you know, Bach and Beethoven are these wonderful human beings, but they're not gods. I mean,
Right.
well, maybe they are, but in the sense that we are all gods.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that they're just normal sort of mortal men and women who happen to have an extraordinary gift. And
Right.
what I try to show in my class is, yes, these people are incredible. Yes, they have a gift, but yes, they have flaws. They're just like us,
Yeah.
except they've realized their gift. Why don't you, student, realize your gift? And so we spent a lot of time in the dark.
Right.
We would sit in the dark and we would listen to a piece of music in the dark. And that was to get them to stop doing their English homework,
Yeah.
their crossword puzzles,
Their
or whatever
emails.
else, and to get them to focus in on the spirituality of the music.
Right.
And then have them, when we lift the lights up, and they would write down sort of what were they feeling with that particular piece of music. And you know, with students who are biochem majors and kinesiology majors, and you know, the football team and basketball team and all the other people that made up the course, it was interesting to see how some of them would grow, you know, as students and as human beings as they try to find out exactly who they are. And for some of these students, well, at least 100 of them or so, some of them sort of discovered a very important part of who they were, you know, during this music. Often when I turned the lights back on, they were crying. You know, and I mean, some of them were asleep.
Yeah.
Some of them had no reaction to this piece or that piece, but then you turn the lights back up and they're crying with another one. I mean, how often in a business class can you get them, you know, the Walmart business plan is a work of art, you know?
I took accounting once. I was crying by the end of the second class.
Well, you know, I mean, you can have that, and you know, I think with art and with the arts, if you're not getting them to those extremes of emotions regularly, for me, it's a disservice as a teacher, because that's what the whole idea of art is supposed to do.
Right.
It is supposed to jog your emotions.
Yeah.
It's supposed to trigger that psyche of yours. It's to help you to weave dreams. And you go out there with a purpose to try to get that stuff across. My problem is, and the problem that the student had with me, was they felt it was the Kabin Thomas show, which it was. It is the Kabin Thomas show.
Well, you're the instructor.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, but I believe that sometimes some people feel as though we as teachers should be vessels, and the information should just come out of our mouth kind of like intellectual vomit. And so try not to instill a personality or push any edges, to just be the deliverer of information from an analytical point of view. And I was never that way. I mean, it's not part of how I grew up. It's not part of the people who came into my life that affected me positively. What I try to do is honor them. And again, I did it the best way I could. It's not the Kabin Thomas cussing hour, but I sure, without a doubt, am not saying I didn't, because I did curse.
Yeah.
And if a student,
As many professors do.
and if a student was talking in my class, it's like that bull and red, you know, it just drove me crazy, because I gave them a warning every class. Turn off your cell phones. Shut your sewers. Don't make a disruption, because what I'm trying to do is share this information that maybe one of you, the person maybe sitting next to you, might get. So if they sat there and talked, I told them to get the F out. There was no questions about that. I was in their face, in their ass, actually. And I was not very interested in being nice.
Right.
They weren't being nice to me.
Yeah.
And so it was was it wrong? Well, the answer is the university says it was. It's just weird to me. It's weird because they say that they're shocked that somebody could actually, you know, say words that, you know, these students don't use.
Oh,
right?
heavens, no.
And between 18 and 22, they're not thinking about sex.
God, no.
You know, and so we don't want to bring that world into be, because I guess in Malvern those words are outlawed or something. I mean, I don't know. And I understand that they said it was over the top. I just don't agree.
Yeah. Well, you have a lot of student support, don't you?
Yeah. Several hundred students have been behind this, who've been petitioning, writing letters and stuff like that. What's been really nice is to get kicked out or reassigned, to be kicked out at the end of the semester, to get students who I haven't talked to in 8 or 9 years who've written me back. People who are doing very successful things. They were saying things like, I loved your class. I can't remember who the hell my English teacher was, but I know who you were, and I know what you were trying to get across, and you helped me go in this particular direction. That's kind of nice.
You've been reassigned. So what do you do now?
Well, what I do now is I am working on a paper that gets information from the various, what Don Bobbitt calls the benchmark universities. The benchmark universities I'm using may be a little different than the benchmark universities he's talking about. I'm using Harvard, Michigan, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Northwestern, UMass, the universities where the University of Arkansas, I believe, is aspiring to be.
Yeah.
And I'm taking what they consider to be a good music appreciation course, comparing it to what I was trying to do, and say, look, what I'm doing is groundbreaking. What I'm doing is very important. And let's compare it and see where I think ahead of the pack and where I'm falling behind, and can we find a happy medium, to it. And maybe this will be a good enough position paper that one day I can present this at a sort of a trade show, where other musicologists are who are trying to pep up their class. My biggest problem that I find with music appreciation is, since you're dealing with a college student body that is mostly not ignorant to classical music, but maybe unaware of it,
Right.
You need to do more than just talk about composers and about the pieces that they wrote. You need to explore all aspects of music, the quirky aspects of music, the music, how music is selling, the business of music. All these things need to go in, and you constantly need to relate it to the music that they're listening to. I would do Vivaldi's Four Seasons, Spring, the first movement from Vivaldi's Four Seasons, and I would compare it to Rexon Effects, Rump Shaker.
Yeah.
And some people were offended by that. They thought it was a ridiculous thing to do, but it makes perfect sense. These two pieces are in actually the same form. If you laid them on top of each other, they'd doggone be minute by minute similar, entities. Now, I don't even think Rexon Effects could spell Vivaldi, but that's not the point. The point is that these things can relate to each other because it's all music and it's all beautiful.
Do you think that some of it is less about the cursing and more about the content of your classes?
Yeah, quite. But still, there's a part of me that would have appreciated being kicked out of the University of Arkansas for being incompetent.
Yeah.
I wasn't kicked out for being incompetent. I was kicked out for being unprofessional.
As one woman said on TV.
So this whole imperfect. I dropped my little microphone. Is that okay?
Yeah, just put it back on.
Okay. So the whole concept of being hello, Houston, being unprofessional is the thing that sort of drove me crazy about what I was trying to do. If for instance they said your content is not correct or it's completely inappropriate, doesn't follow any sort of curriculum, I guess it wouldn't have hurt as much as to say how you're delivering it is inappropriate. But that's me. I think sometimes because I've railed against the administration, talking about the fact that they go to more sporting events than you'd ever see them at any concerts, and that the whole idea that upper administration, the proof is not if they throw us a couple of dollars or not. The proof is if they have their warm butts sitting in the concert hall as the performances are taking place. You spend $200 million repairing a stadium, and there's nothing wrong with having a beautiful stadium. I think it's great. You close the only museum in the city? That's mouth-breathing stupid. And so I'm trying to figure out why people would do that if you're trying to create a Tier 1 university. Because they're always like, Tier 1, Tier 1, Tier 1, Tier 1, with a Tier 3 attitude. You can't have it.
Right.
Michigan has a university that has a museum and has children's things, and it has all this. You can't get up to Tier 1 if you're going to keep that sort of Tier 3 mentality. Michigan has a great football stadium. We have a great football stadium. We sometimes have not the greatest cultural attractions,
Right.
but we often say we do. But then again, upper administration doesn't go to anything, so it's a great big lie.
Right.
So I guess some people were saying, well, were you set up for something like that? I don't think that they necessarily play that, but I do believe that many of them in upper administration are like, whew, we got that pain in the ass out of here.
Yeah.
And with that, I said, part of me is like, enjoy tier 3 status, because I don't see how it can change unless that attitude, unless there's a huge sea change that takes place in the attitude of how they're going to support and represent culture, nothing is going to change. I mean, they may have a tier 1 business school.
Right.
And they may have a tier 1, physics or optics or
engineering,
something like that.
yeah.
But, the whole thing is going to remain swilled in the fever swamp of mediocrity because that really does need to change. And I'm not sure if I see that. So I have always been an open critic of how little they care about the cultural progress of the university.
Now, you would show artworks, too, during your classes, wouldn't you?
Sure. I show lynchings during my class when I talk about music of protest, with Billie Holiday. I mean, you can't play the song Strange Fruit unless you've seen the lynchings that helped inspire Billie
Right.
Holiday to sing that song. And people would walk out, and I'd give a disclaimer. Like I gave a disclaimer at the beginning of the semester. Folks, the class is strong. If you have very delicate sensibilities, then you will not want to keep this class.
So what do you think they were expecting, some kind of junior high music appreciation class?
I think what they wanted was a more gentlemanly approach. I mean, that's what I think they would be comfortable with. And I don't know, I'm not a gentleman. I mean, I grew up in the ghetto of Detroit,
Right.
and I was in the Marines, and I was in the Navy, and I, sold drugs when I was younger, and I was in a gang and shot a weapon, and I, worked at a porno bookstore. I mean, all of these things are what makes me me.
Right.
And therefore, I have to bring those things to bear. I'm not
Because you're the sum of all your parts.
Yeah, I'm not very good. I can't do a Clinton, which is to be able to categorize, actually quite well, categorize these different components of who he was,
Right.
and then present whatever face was necessary to
Yeah.
what you see is what you get. There's no difference. I mean, we were talking before the class, before this little thing. There's no difference.
No.
I do what I do. And so if I was more of a gentleman, I think they would have appreciated that. If I used no F-bombs or S-bombs, I would have been used. But again, I didn't use that many. And
Well, the impression is that you used them
All the
several times an hour.
yeah, well, it's not true. And I mean, I'm sure students would say, oh, yeah, I used them all the time. And you'd have other students go, oh, my God, I have other professors who use them more. I'm glad that other professors are not sitting in this hot seat. However, I will say this. I do believe other professors will sit in this hot seat. One, because of the massive amount of disinterest,
Yeah.
which is a little bit frightening. And two, I mean, maybe because they don't think...
Disinterest on whose part?
Well, disinterest, I sort of feel, is on the people who are, I was hoping, would sort of rally behind this, which is the other
Yeah.
faculty.
Right.
I sort of feel as though either they're, by not saying anything, they're pretty comfortable with the decision.
Right.
But my worry is that the slippery slope has begun. So now it's going to be, for me, it was an S-bomb. The next person out's going to say hell. The next person out's going to say God. The next person out is going to present information that some student is going to say, this offends me, and you should go. And where does it stop?
Yeah. Do you think that we're having a generation of people now who have been so-called protected by their parents from learning new information, that's who you're being exposed to in schools?
Possibly. I mean, I've been very blessed to have a lot of students in my office and talking about what they've learned. And, sometimes they're exceptionally knowledgeable along a very narrow line.
Right.
But they're really brilliant. And so the worry that happens to me in college is, I think, is supposed to be one of those times that if you are walking this sort of path for 4 years or for 5 years, you really need to get stretched.
Right.
open, and then you could slam it shut and live the rest of your life as mediocre as you want. But during this period of time, you really need to be stretched and stretched hard, because this is the only time, I think college is the only time in which all these ideas, this panoply of ideas, are going to be presented to you for all these years. That's why, as a liberal, and I tell my class I'm a liberal, that I think it's very important to go and see Ann Coulter. I think she's brilliant. I think she's insane, but I think she's entertaining. I think she's done a medieval sort of process of getting information, which I wish I could do with teaching my music appreciation class. Yeah. So she has done her work, she does it entertainingly, and she makes in a night what I make in a year. And that is impressive. Yeah. I wish Rush Limbaugh would come here. I wish Louis Farrakhan would come here. I think it's great to have as many different variables out here as humanly possible and open up that narrow range. And I think that society is in trouble when you decide to slam that closed. Because as much, I mean, like me or not, my goal was to change these students' lives. And I touched a lot of these students' lives. Since I didn't sleep with any, since I didn't take any money, since I didn't expose myself, what the hell's the problem?
Just what you're saying. You're expanding people's minds against their will.
Yeah, maybe.
So before we go, is this like a bad sign for the future of the country?
I think there's a wave of, for me, there's just a wave of mediocrity, I think, sometimes that come in, that is making itself very apparent. On the left, you have the PCites. On the right, you have the, ultra-conservatives. And I think both of those extreme fringes are very dangerous. Right. And when it comes to doing so much of saying, what this person is saying in class is wrong, you are in danger. The moment that you start to say that these words are wrong to use, it creates, a slope that has lard, that's covered in grease, that's on a 65-degree incline. Where's it going to stop? I see it really boding very badly for the future.
And I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon.
No, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Well, at least we've had a good half-hour discussion here.
No problem. It's a joy to be on the show and to talk to you about that.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Kabin.
Yeah, joy.
And thanks a lot, and we'll see you next week. So good night, Fayetteville, wherever you are. Now we're natter.
Your living room is the factory. The product being manufactured is you.
In the money supply creates a curve which I'll darken here. So now we've got an expansionary fiscal policy. That was whatever kicked the demand curve up in the first place. We add to that an expansionary money policy in order to keep the interest rate the same.
For years, people have defined the economic health of a country by its gross national product. The trouble is that every time a forest falls, the GNP goes up. With every oil spill, the GNP goes up. Every time a new cancer patient is diagnosed, the GNP goes up. If we are to save ourselves, economists must learn to subtract.
A song that came out because somebody asked me to go to a craft fair with them, and I feel like I was missing the day that they passed out that craft fair gene, and I just had to say something. Happy the craft fair opens today. You want to understand, but here's what I have to say. I don't want to go to another craft fair and wade through the legions of women with money to spare. They're looking for someone else's dreams to share. When they were girls, their imaginations could fly. Somehow they turned into women who try hard not to try, and they never think of making something they could buy. And I don't want to go to another craft fair and wade through the legions of women with frosted hair. They're looking for someone else's dreams to share. It's all harmless and hopeless, so cutesy pie. You won't believe the things they'll buy. What they buy here fills their yard sales in a year. Shopping for knickknacks has become their career. And I don't want to go see their husbands shuffling along behind. Decoupage and crochet, the furthest from their minds. The smart ones stayed in the car. They feel like they're on Mars. And I don't want to go to another craft fair where home prairies to winter in a war with fresh air. They're looking for someone else's dreams to share. The vendors wait with hungry eyes, seeking validation your money can buy. If you buy their dreams, then they can dream some more. Some days they wish they just worked in a store. And I don't want to go to another craft fair. Sweatshirts and sequins and puppies is what they wear. They're looking for someone else's dreams, someone else's dreams to share.
Newsflash! 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 Newsflash!
Is this a joke? The TV networks will be carrying advisories on programming in the coming year to advise viewers of more than usually violent programs. Unfortunately, there are as yet no plans to advise folks at home when shows are more than usually stupid.
Lisa Martinovich. This poem is dedicated to anybody who ever gets tired of doing the right thing. It's called Maybe I Just Need a Virtual Binge. Damn, it happened again last night. I try to shut it out, but I can't. Every time I see a movie like Thelma and Louise or Natural Born Killers, I leave the theater transformed into a budding sociopath. My long, dormant trigger finger itching once again to go on a crime spree. I want to grab my boyfriend's AK-47 and a bottle of Jack Daniels, steal me a fast car, and start financing a road trip with late-night 7-Eleven holdups, and I want to go now. But it's not supposed to be this way. I've already done my decade of heroin and whoring, seizures and psychedelics. I've followed up with umpteen years of therapy, amends, whole grains, rigorous honesty. I thought I was through exercising my shadow. I thought I was on the high road from here on in. I fully expected my development trajectory to head straight up. That I was going to be ever more spiritually evolved and will eventually reach enlightenment. Maybe in this lifetime. But no. Suddenly, all I want to do is smoke a joint and start candy and eyeball searing Technicolor. Hardly the mature Buddha response to life's pressures. But from where I sit, it looks mighty appealing. I am all out. I'm tired of contorting my flesh into yoga pretzels every morning, meditating like some Dalai Lama wannabe at night, and making amends every time I fart crooked or even think an unsavory thought about some sorry-ass son of a bitch who truly deserves it. I am very nearly brain dead from trying unsuccessfully to figure out God's will for me, and from staying so all-fired, perpetually conscious I could scream a red-hot hole through the roof of every church, mosque, synagogue, temple, and 12-suit meeting on the planet. Sometimes I'm even tired of writing poetry. I want to speed into a bloody southwest sunset with a tattooed drug dealer in a convertible filled with banned weapons and killer weed, leaving a trail of mayhem and baffled cops in our wake, and just as we're about to go hurtling off the edge forever... Shit, I can't go through with it. Back home, I come down on brown rice. I'm not willing to pay the price of abandon, so every moment of every day, I pay the price of consciousness. Times like this, I'm just not sure what costs more. Thank you.
The 70s belonged to Toyota, and Honda owned the 80s. The 90s will belong to Nissan. Already this decade.
The creative warranties that truly protect the people who will drive the car. The new Nissan Altima, built for the human race.
It's coming. The most significant event in automotive history. It's coming. The end of the age of the automobile.
For millions of years, they ruled the earth, and then they vanished. What really caused the dinosaurs to become extinct? Was it a giant asteroid crashing to Earth? Was it massive volcanoes erupting around the world? Was it a sudden change in climate? Or was it that they just weren't financially prepared to live out their later years? How can you avoid the dinosaur's fate? By making U.S. savings bonds part of your retirement savings program. Ask your banker or employer. U.S. savings bonds, the safe and easy way to make sure you're financially prepared for your later years.
He's screaming.
Oh, yeah.
Now this is, I guess this is a vegetarian hymn.
Well, it is of sorts. I mean, and this is where some aspect of the spirituality comes in, and also just it's a self-exploration process. Okay, based, as most all of my poems are, on a real life experience. Betty's Scream. Last night we had Betty for dinner. She used to live down the road from me and Jeb. I never knew the old gal, only met her once or twice. She had one of these souls, the kind that leaves you feeling like you've been touched, nectar sweet and clear like spring water. Jeb knew Betty real well, met her when she first came to old man Jessup's farm. She was just a sprout back then. Over the years, Jeb had a hand in tending her when she got snake bit or stuck in barbed wire, the late night births. Betty was a good-natured beast. She served old man Jessup well, right up until the day he took one long, cold look at her and decided she wasn't worth her weight in feed anymore. Too old for birthing healthy stock. Jeb helped load her into the livestock trailer. Betty knew where she was headed. She could smell their guilt. Too old for birthing, so now her ground-up rump sizzles in the skillet while I slice onions, tomatoes, rinse the lettuce. Slabs of cheddar melt into her flesh, and I pronounce her done. Jeb adds piles of condiments and then surveys his mass of deconstructed Betty. "Looky here," he says, "I've built a bigger, better burger with that old heifer." I stared at my plate for a moment. I thought about Betty, felt a passing cloud of moral nausea, and then, well, it's certainly too late now. Besides, I'm hungry. I sank my teeth into Betty. A scream pierced the heavens, and she was heard asking God, "Have mercy on their souls."
I like that. Do you still eat meat?
Yes, I do. But see, this is an exploration process.
Yes.
This is a discovery process, and it's been more difficult to continue eating meat. I've gone in and out of vegetarianism. I'm out. I mean, since I've been in Arkansas, I've been way out. But
we still have pockets of vegetarians here in Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
They're in conclaves. They're well armed.
Newsflash! 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 Newsflash!
Is this a joke? With the news that old TV favorites The Fugitive and The Beverly Hillbillies are coming to the big screen, word has been announced that Gilligan's Island will be the next show to receive the big star treatment. Cast so far are Kevin Costner as the professor, John Candy as the skipper, Sean Connery as Mr. Howell, Madonna as Ginger, and Rob Lowe as Gilligan, a simple-minded but sexually precocious cabin boy. The film is expected to carry the dreaded NC-17 rating.
Stop thinking about you, first impression so intense. Just taste your freedom, take a risk. I'll be your seventh sense. Yes, I will now. Will I tell my friends about you? And they say that I'm obsessed. But to share your wiles with me, this heart of mine won't rest. No, no, no. Whatever happened to love? Exploring the mysteries of you. Yeah, yeah. Hey, hey.
can I catch my breath? I'm sore now, transfixed by the way you move, the way you move, the way you move, the way you move. Whatever happened to love? Exploring the mysteries of you. Yeah, yeah. Oh, oh. Hey, hey, oh, oh. Well, I won't take moderation. No, that just won't do. Oh, lose your inhibition. Let your body speak the truth. I said speak the truth. Speak the truth. Now speak the truth. Whatever happened to love? Exploring the mysteries of you. Yeah, yeah. Exploring the mysteries of you. Exploring the mysteries of you. How about you now? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exploring the mysteries of you. Exploring the mysteries of mysteries, mysteries of you. You. Yeah, I know we're gonna take our sweet time. Oh, baby, let's just see what we can find. I like the way you move, the way you move, move, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I like it. I like the way you move, the way you move, move, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I like it. I like the way you move. I like the way you move. I like the way you move, move, yeah. I like it, yes, I like it. Well, I like the way you move.
Hallucinate to segregate, mediate, alleviate, try not to hate, love your mate, don't suffocate on your own hate, designate your lover's fate, a one world state as human freight, the number 8, a white black slate, a gentle train, a broken crane, a heavy weight, just too late, now death is state, appreciate, depreciate, fabricate, emulate, truth dilate, a special date, the animals made, guilt debate, the inserate, a better rate, a youth irate to liberate, fascinate, deviate, and reinstate, liberate, to liberate, liberate.
What really caused the dinosaurs to become extinct? Was it massive worldwide volcanic eruptions? An asteroid crashing to Earth? A sudden change in climate? Or was it that they just weren't financially prepared for their later years? Make U.S. savings bonds part of your retirement savings program. Ask your banker or employer, U.S. savings bonds, the safe and easy way to make sure you're financially prepared for your later years.
This next song is another story song. It was written by Sally Finger. And since AIDS became prevalent in this country, we've had many opportunities to either learn and grow and become more caring and loving people, or to hide deeper in fear and hatred. And I've seen people go both ways. I think people who have families do a huge disservice to their children when they insist on remaining ignorant, when they insist on breeding hatred, because their kids grow up with that, and sometimes that hatred ends up being internalized, and I think that's one of the most awful things you can have to deal with as an adult. This song is a really lovely song, a lovely story about a mom and her daughter trying to understand some of the issues around AIDS.
Newsflash! Newsflash!
Is this a joke?
Wheels! You're on the wrong camera. Move!
Once again, good evening. This is On the Air News Update, and I'm Helen Wheels. Safe sex reared its ugly head in Fayetteville this past week with the announcement that Mayor Fred Hanna was opposed to the opening of a condom shop on the Fayetteville Square. It is felt that the store, which will feature condoms and certain novelty items, will bring down the highly moral family atmosphere of the downtown area. Goody buy shoes of the Fayettevilleans against condoms being offered in the known universe, or Fuck Beaucoup, offered this assessment. Sex is a pretty unsavory activity once you think about it. I personally am convinced that the mere presence of condoms in a community encourages all manner of degeneracy. Besides, think of the effect it will have on the patrons of our local nightclubs if those decent, hot, sweaty, wildly gyrating figures on the dance floor should become aware that condoms are easily available. Who knows what thoughts might go through their innocent heads? We have been unable to confirm rumors that one prophylactic would be named the Razorback Special.
Where's your voice? Woman, where's your voice? Don't you know you have a choice to stay there in the pain or up and move away? It's simply up to you. To thine own self be true. Oh, woman, where's your voice? Taking care of this, always taking care of that, never taking care of where you're at. Taking care of everyone but the wounded girl inside. Don't you want to run away and hide? Woman, don't you hush, don't keep silent, learn to trust that little voice inside you that constantly reminds you to always speak your mind and say no sometimes. Oh, woman, don't you hush. Keeping care of this, always taking care of that, never taking care of where you're at. Taking care of everyone but the wounded girl inside. Don't you want to run away and
Our economy is in trouble. Our education system is failing. Our cities have become war zones. And our planet is in distress. But instead of reaching out for solutions, We reach for another potato chip and zap another channel. Snap out of it, America. A message from the Media Foundation.
What really caused the dinosaurs to become extinct? An asteroid? Volcanoes? Changes in climate? Or maybe they just weren't financially prepared for their later years. Make U.S. savings bonds part of your retirement savings program, the safe and easy way to save for your later years.
Is this a joke? The U of A's young Republicans, embittered because of their inability to prevent a married gay couple from speaking on campus, have announced plans to organize the campus sex police. When asked if they expected to find many violators of Arkansas's antiquated sex laws, their spokesman, Tom Peking, grinned and said, "I sure hope so." I'm Helen Wheels. This has been On the Air News Update, where journalism still stands for something.